Welcome to English 4E. This is term 2A, class 5. We are Welcome to class English 4E, term 2A, class 5. Assignments K7 and K8 are what we're going to work on today. And we are looking at adjective and adverb phrases. Here is my contact page. If you want to email me, I am at jillian.percy@necschools.org. You can Facebook me at capital G, capital PERCY, space capital WAHSA. You can also find previous recordings on YouTube at the same item, G Percy Wasa. If you're sending in work, please send it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. And that way the secretary can log that you've submitted the work. Please include your full name, the course name, assignment number and name. And if the assignment asks for both a rough and a good draft, please label which is which and include them both in the same email. Sometimes they get marked very differently, and often they're at least half your mark. If you need to take a photograph of an assignment for some reason, please send it in an email as an attachment rather than in the body of the email. For some reason, that's much easier for us to print off and to see properly. Okay, so today's work, we are looking at understanding adjective phrases, creating adjective phrases, writing sentences that use adjective phrases, understanding adverb phrases, creating adverb phrases, and writing sentences that use adverb phrases. As I mentioned before, Unit 1 really is focusing on the building blocks of grammar so that when we get to the next units, you've kind of got all the basics already down. Okay, so this is part of activity 2, and this is kind of a general preamble to the actual assignments. Using modifiers in writing. Modifiers are just another word for adverbs and adverbs and adjectives. I changed this once, but there was a little blip that I had a problem with. I apologize. Everything else is stayed changed. With this activity, you will continue to study and practice your grammar skills. The focus this time will be on the correct use of adjective adverb phrases. You will have the opportunity to demonstrate your understanding of the concept through a series of short assignments along with some journal writing. If you recall, an adjective is a part of speech. It is a word that describes a noun, and you were given two examples in the original way back when: formal report and colorful brochure. The word formal describes the report, colorful describes the brochure. Both formal and colorful are adjectives, and report and brochure are nouns. Now, these are examples of phrases, yes. They called them adjective phrases, and I would say normally I would not call those an adjective phrase because an adjective phrase is normally two or more adjectives working together to describe a noun. So an example would be the gray broken down barn. So just kind of, I wanted to clarify that. It's a really small little picky point, but it bothered me. They are definitely a phrase. Anything that's not a sentence is considered a phrase. Okay. An adverb, which is also described earlier as a part of speech, refers to a word or combination of words that describe a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. And you were giving the following examples: carefully communicated and accurately summarize. The words carefully and accurate are adverbs, and the words communicated and summarize are verbs. Adverbs can also follow verbs, like instead of being in front, they can be afterwards. Like communicate carefully instead of communicated, instead of carefully communicated. The examples given are also phrases. And again, I do not consider these adverb phrases. Okay, they're just phrases. Adverbs describing a verb: carefully whispered, slowly crept, gently smiled, slept restlessly. Adverbs can describe another adverb: very carefully, later today, too quickly, incredibly handsome. An adverb can also describe an adjective: extremely scary, quite filthy, so happy, rather unlucky. Oh, this is that problem. Okay, sorry. Again, I thought I gotten that fixed, but I guess we didn't. All right, adjectives were discussed briefly at the beginning of the course. They describe nouns or pronouns. In other words, they can describe or modify people, places, things, and ideas. Adjectives can be used to describe age, color, size, shape, purpose, number, origins, material, quality, or opinions. We're going to look at each of these categories in more detail. Um, oh, sorry, I had a little glitch earlier, and I guess it didn't save all my material. I'm going to just kind of sit here. So, age is pretty easy. Age is things like young, old, ancient, um, youthful, babyish, that kind of thing. Color is obviously red, green, blue, that sort of thing. Size could be things like small, big, medium. It could also be things like short or narrow or wide. Shape, again, I think is probably pretty obvious. Oval, square, rectangular, circular, that kind of thing. But the ones where you're getting to like purpose, number, origins, material, quality, or opinions, those are a bit not as obvious, I think. So first of all, I wanted to tackle this. This is one of the ones where they're a special category called determiners. And some people think of them as separate from adjectives, and some people think of them as a special type of adjective. Regardless of which way it goes, these would always come before any other adjectives. And there's six main types of determiners. There's articles, which we always use with nouns, a, an, and the. There's possessives, my, your, his, her, it's, our, their, and whose, which is like a question word. There's demonstratives, this, that, these, those. There's numerals like 1, 2, 3, 4, or ordinals, which show like first, second, third, fourth. And then there's quantifiers, which are like number words that tell amounts, but not a specific number, like a few, another, several, much, many, a lot, any, some, and very. And the reason we're kind of talking about this is because remember we talked about how English is a language that relies on word order to give meaning. In other words, the order something occurs in a sentence can affect what it means. So that isn't true of all languages, but it is true of English. Okay. So when they first talked about adjectives of opinion or quality, I was kind of confused because some of the things they mentioned as opinions, I just felt like, well, it's not really an opinion, it's just describing it. But I realized it's kind of a way of discussing it. It's a huge category because so many things are considered an opinion. I like how we're describing it as a quality of something, which I think is a little more understandable. And here's an example. I eat the pizza and think it's tasty. Dad ate it and thought it was terrible. Now, those are very much opinions, right? Mom took a bite and says it's greasy. Now, to me, that's just a quality. John ate 4 pieces and says it's filling. I guess that could be a quality or could be an opinion. So you see what I mean in terms of a lot of these, they're a huge part of adjectives. I just had never heard of them as opinions in that sense. So all those words in reds are essentially voicing an opinion on the pizza, or they could be considered to be describing a certain quality of the pizza. If you wanted to know more, there's some interesting stuff on it at Kathy Steinman. I've got a little link down there if you want to check her out. Adjectives of origin. Adjectives of origin describe where something came from. And it's often a country. It could be a region or a continent or even a body of water. And it's generally capitalized to show that it's a proper noun. So like Pacific salmon came from the Pacific Ocean. A Chinese vase obviously came from China. Swiss chocolate comes from the Swiss. German car comes from Germany. American cotton would come from America. European oils, where we're talking about a whole kind of category. Okay. Um, so origin is like the country of origin, I guess. Purpose. Purpose adjectives almost sound like the part of the noun because they're so specific and they describe the purpose of that particular noun. So examples are like running shoes versus soccer shoes. But like we say the phrase running shoes so often, it just sounds like a noun all by itself. So sometimes those ones are kind of hard to recognize because we're so used to hearing them associated, that we don't recognize them as adjectives anymore. A sleeping bag versus a grocery bag. And again, you get a completely different picture in your head. Sure, it's a bag, but it's a completely different type, right? Frying pan versus a saucepan, computer table versus a kitchen table. Some other examples are things like a picnic basket, a shower stall, a winter coat, oven mitts, gardening gloves, a surgical mask, a fitted sheet, a rocking chair, or a toy boat. So grammar is different from language to language. And if you grew up speaking English, the adjective order becomes instinctive. You just follow it automatically. However, other languages have other rules of order for adjectives or less strict rules. Like in some places, they just don't even care. Doesn't affect anything. So in that case, you may have to learn the English order because there's not really any particular rhyme or reason as to why we use this order. However, if the order gets mixed up, it can sound wrong to people, even if they can't put into words why it sounds so wrong. And sometimes the wrong is so intense that it can be like, oh my goodness, I can't even make any sense of this. Sorry, I'm just looking for, okay. Um, I'm going to flip over to one of the slides and just kind of show you an example, first of all. So it's what they call the royal order of adjectives. And instinctively, whether we realize it or not, if you are familiar and are comfortable and grew up speaking English, this is the order we generally put things in. We put the determiners first, quantity or numbers next, our opinions or the quality next, then size, then age, then shape, color, origin, material, and then purpose. So, oh, hang on. Sorry, just trying to find that. If I said I saw the green huge house, that just sounds weird. It should be I saw the huge blue house. Or if I tried to say I saw the silk French beautiful cloth, when I read that, I'm not even sure what they're talking about. Saw the silk French. Was there a French person? What do they mean there? It should be I saw the beautiful French silk cloth. Now, even though there are all those categories, it would be really rare for us to use that many adjectives in a sentence unless we were deliberately trying to sound funny and almost like make a joke. We usually just pick two or three. Now, there's a few reasons. Hang on, let's talk about. Okay. All right. So we're going to kind of, yeah, sorry. Again, this is the thing where I mix some things up. Some adjectives could be used in more than one category. So for example, wooden can mean a type of material. Wooden can also mean a type of facial expression. Like if I say he's got a wooden expression, it's like his face is like wood. It's not moving at all. And that's considered more of a quality or an opinion. So if I said the old wooden mask hung on the wall, well, we always put age before a type of material. But if I say the wooden old face barely moved as he cried soundlessly, I'm describing the quality of his face. And so in which case, quality comes before age. So that is one reason why you might see adjectives used in a different category. Sometimes we break the order on purpose. For example, maybe you want to stress a particular adjective or a particular quality about the noun. So for example, let's say the shopkeeper is talking to his assistant and he said, oh, I specifically said I wanted the wooden green bowl, not the glass green bowl. Now, he's put them out of order because he's trying to emphasize I'm looking for wood, I'm not looking for glass. And he's putting them more first so that they're very obvious to who he's speaking. So that's one time when you might break the order. Another time when you might break the order is it's what we call the big bad wolf rule. And it's where instinctively in our mouth, if we are saying words that start with the same consonant, we tend to want to say the vowel sounds in a certain type of order. And this apparently crosses languages. This is not necessarily only English specific. In words that are spelled the same, especially with this first letter, I will come before A, which will come before O, the short ones like I, ah, ah. So we would say tick, tack, toe, not toe, tack, tick. Other examples would be flip, flop, ping, pong, tick, tock, crisscross, hip, hop, bing, bang. You can see it just comes up really commonly. You'll also have the long E or the double E come before O. So teeter, totter, bebop. Um, Even though technically big and bad um, aren't exactly the same, they do start the same. And so somehow it's easier for our mouth to do these. I do not know why. Um, it's called the vowel rule. We want to say the vowels that are pronounced at the front of the mouth, like I, before we say the ones that we say at the back of the mouth. This isn't one you have to remember. Like I think it's something we'd use instinctively, but in case you had ever noticed the exceptions and were like, okay, why is it okay for these ones to break the rules? I just want to explain why you might have seen that before, okay? Um, yep, covered that. Do we use commas with adjectives or not? Maybe you've seen them sometimes used and sometimes not. And here's the reason why. Two adjectives that come from the same category should have a comma between them. So if I said the disgusting, smelly pear should get thrown away, I would put a comma between disgusting and smelly. But if I am using adjectives from different categories, I don't need a comma between them. So if I said the delicious yellow Welsh cheese had just arrived at the shop, those don't have to have a comma between them. But I think what happens is we get so used to using the commas like we do above that we tend to use them. I'm probably not going to mark that wrong if you put commas where they don't belong in that sense. Um, but technically, that is the correct way to do it. I'm making sure you know the rules so you can choose what you want to do. If you're not sure, I would tend to err on the side of caution and put a comma there, to be honest. We've said that. Yep, we discussed the royal order. Okay. So here is your key question. Number 7, creating and using adjective phrases. For each of the following nouns, write 2 adjectives. So write a noun in front of book and then another noun. Noun in front of house and then adjective, another adjective. Adjective in front of girl, another adjective. One for thunderstorm, another one for thunderstorm, one for movie, another one for girl, and then another one. After you've done that, then choose one and write it into a sentence. So each of the given nouns. So you'll have one for book, one for house, one for girl, one for thunderstorm, one for movie, one for, oh, did girl end up twice? Girl ended up twice. So you end up with 5 sentences, basically. Hang on. Yep. So you end up with 5 sentences. Okay, so we're going to practice here. They don't mean 2 adjectives in front. So I could just use the handsome man, or I could say the young man, right? Game. It could be a frustrating game, or maybe it's an expensive game. Clouds, they could be fluffy clouds, or maybe they are threatening clouds, like you think it's going to have a storm soon. Okay, I wouldn't say gentle summer wind. In this case, it would just be gentle wind versus, say, a fierce wind. Hill, it could be, I think here, kind of hill. Tall hill versus maybe it's a rocky hill. Dog. Friendly dog, or I could describe it as a tiny dog. And again, you could use more than one adjective. Right here, they're only asking, as far as I understand, one adjective for each noun. Okay, then I would turn it into an adjective phrase. Now here I use both. The handsome young man, but really I just need the handsome man walked onto the stage and all the girls cheered. I love to feel the gentle breeze on my face. So In key question number 7, you take the phrases you created and you turn them into sentences. So you should have 5, I think, when you're finished the exercise. As long as you've used one sentence for each type of noun, you're fine. I just want to point one thing out. In the real world, we don't always put our adjectives right before the noun. Sometimes we would put it after a state of being verb if you're just wanting to describe the noun's condition. So the man was young and handsome. The wind was gentle and summery. Even in a sentence that's a little bit longer, like a complex sentence or one that has an introductory phrase, you could still have adjectives in that space. Early in June, the wind was gentle and summery. Even though they're at the end, they're still describing the type of wind. I might be willing to date him, comma, if the man is young and handsome. So young and handsome may be at the end, but they're still describing the word man. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to talking about adverbs. So I'm going to kind of pull up a quick kind of intro here to adverbs. Let's see. Oh, now why is that happening? Oh, there we go.
Adverbs. An adverb is a word that describes a verb. Adverbs have the same relationship with verbs that adjectives have with nouns. Adverbs usually answer one of these questions: when, where, how, and how often. These are examples of adverbs that show where the verb or action is taking place. The cat is hiding under the bed. Hiding is the action verb in this sentence, and under describes or shows where the action is happening, and it is happening under, so under is an adverb. These are examples of adverbs that show when the action or the verb is taking place. I will write my essay later. Later is an adverb that shows when the action will happen. Since the action or the verb in the sentence is write, it shows that the writing will happen later. So later is an adverb that shows when. These are some examples of adverbs that show how the action is happening. They laughed loudly at the joke. Laughed is the action verb in this sentence, and loudly describes how the action is happening, and it is happening loudly, so loudly is an adverb. Notice that the adverbs here all end in ly. Adding the ly in the end helps make them describe verbs. Not all adverbs, though, end in ly. Let's look at this example. Mary is a safe driver. Mary drives safely. In these two sentences, I've used the word safe differently. In the first sentence, safe described Mary, so it is an adjective. In the second sentence, safely described her driving, so that means it's an adverb. Finally, these are examples of adverbs that show how often the verb or the action is taking place. I always brush my teeth. Brush is the action verb in the sentence. Always describes how often the verb or the action is happening, and it is happening always, so that means the word always is an adverb. Just like adjectives, adverbs really help transform your sentences and make them more interesting. Let's see how. Chuck ate his dinner. This is a very simple and plain sentence. By adding adverbs, I can make it more interesting. I can say Chuck happily ate his dinner or Chuck hungrily ate his dinner. In both sentences, the adverbs show how he was eating. Try using adjectives and adverbs in your writing and see how your sentences will transform. Thanks for watching.
Okay.
Adverbs.
Sorry. There we go. Okay. So adverbs can also describe not only verbs, but adjectives and other adverbs. We often learn about the verbs, but they don't mention those ones, but they do show up. So things like the dog barked loudly. Here, the adverb is after the verb barked. but it can also describe an adjective. So my teacher is incredibly patient with me. Incredibly is my adverb, and it's describing the adjective patient. Adverbs can also describe another adverb. So the prisoner whispered very quietly to the man beside him. So very is kind of modifying the adverb quietly. To give you the idea, it's extra quietly. All right, so there are different categories of adverbs, just the same way that there's different categories of adjectives. We've got adverbs of manner, adverbs of place, adverbs of time, adverbs of frequency, adverbs of purpose, adverbs of degree, conjunctive adverbs, and focusing adverbs. So we're taking a look at the categories for this, so we're better at recognizing adverbs when reading and have a larger bank of adverbs in our memory when we're writing. This is one of those areas where I feel like it's one of the parts of speech I feel sometimes is it covers so many categories that it can sometimes be kind of hard to recognize that they're even adverbs. So adverbs of manner tell us how something occurred. This is kind of the typical adverb that we all think of when we're thinking about adverbs, right? They're usually put before the verb or sometimes at the end of the clause. They cannot be in the middle between the verb and its direct object. So I can say the boy quickly ate the cookie, or the boy ate the cookie quickly, but I couldn't write the boy ate quickly the cookie. It just sounds funny. So some other examples of adverbs of manner are things like slowly, absurdly, happily, nastily, well, lazily, quietly, hard, roughly, loudly, deeply, and desperately. Then we've got adverbs of place. They can tell you location, direction, and distance. Sometimes these will be the exact same words as our prepositions, okay? The big difference is that adverbs will be describing the action, like what happens. Prepositions link a noun or a pronoun to the rest of the sentence. So if it's an adverb, like she fell down, down is clearly describing where she fell. Whereas if I said he went up the stairs, in that case, up is connecting the words the stairs to the rest of the sentence. So that part is a little tiny bit confusing. It's useful to know though at the time that there's a common confusion between those, okay? So some common adverbs of place are up, down, north, south, inside, outside, everywhere, anywhere, here, there, and around. Some examples in a sentence are she looked up, the boys and girls ran around, dad looked everywhere for his key, the golf ball went far. Okay. Now, if I wanted to change those into prepositions, here's how I would do that, right? She looked up, let's see, the hill. All of a sudden, it's connecting the words the hill instead of just describing she looked. Now, you could say the whole phrase up the hill is acting as kind of an adverbial phrase or a prepositional phrase. But at this point, normally we would consider up as a preposition now instead of as an adverb, even though it's almost the same. That's kind of why sometimes English can be a little bit confusing because the same word can have two jobs. And in this case, the one job trumps the other. The boys and girls ran around the city block. So around was describing ran. Now it's linking the words the city block to the rest of the sentence. Dad looked everywhere. Oh, now here, okay, for his key is already a prepositional phrase. So I'm not sure how I would turn the everywhere into prepositional phrase as well. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but it doesn't leap to mind. So that one, because it's already got that coming afterwards, it's kind of hard to add one there. The golf ball went far. Let me see here. The golf ball went far into the street. Nope. Let's see. Far off course? Off the course. Okay, I think that works. Far off the course is, I believe, working as a prepositional phrase there. Okay, hang on. Okay, adverbs of time. Adverbs of time, there's kind of three categories of time. Sometimes people list these as separate categories, but they have so much overlap that it's just easier to kind of refer to them generally together. When an action happened, you would use adverbs like tomorrow, yesterday, soon, immediately, often, or never. The frequency of an action or how often it occurs, hourly, daily, monthly, yearly, annually. The duration of the action or how long it occurs for, briefly, temporarily, already, shortly, any longer. So an example of when, I write my exam tomorrow. Frequency, we get paid bi-monthly. Oh, just one L there. Duration, the pain from the shot will last briefly. Sometimes several adverbs of time might be used in one sentence. She left work temporarily yesterday afternoon. The plane usually arrives daily. So then we're on to adverbs of purpose. These are also sometimes called adverbs of reason because they're explaining the reason for something happening. Now, these are ones that also seem a little bit tricky because in some cases they look a little bit like subordinating conjunctions. And I think in some cases they actually are acting as a subordinating conjunction too. So these are tricky ones. They probably aren't the kind that you're going to want to use today for our assignment, but I do want you to be aware of them so that you recognize them in a sentence. So for example, therefore, the football player was very hungry. Therefore, he ordered several entrees at once. He locked the shed so that his children could not play with the power tools. I'm going to underline these so it's a little more obvious which word is which. Here we go. Okay. She wished to remain a mystery, hence the elaborate mask at the dance. The business has spent all their money for this month. Consequently, no more orders can be filled. Consequently, be kind of like as a consequence of, as a result of. Ooh, until next month, that jumped down there. Hang on a sec. The hardworking waitress saved all her tips in order to afford a vacation. The celebrity always traveled with a bodyguard since the assassination attempt. The plant was not watered enough, thus, it could not grow properly. Lest he forget, he wrote his anniversary on his calendar. All right, so then adverbs of degree. These are used to modify or describe verbs, adjectives, and other adjectives. They tell us the extent, like how much of something that has happened. She almost completed all the questions. Her mom scarcely believed they had eaten all the stew. The runner was extremely thirsty. My friend had been deeply unhappy. In those cases, the adverb is describing an adjective. It can also describe another adverb. The student driver parked very carefully. Somewhat haphazardly, the boy began to pack his things. Here are some other examples. Words like almost, absolutely, barely, completely, deeply, enough, entirely, extremely, fairly, hardly, how, incredibly, just, least, lots, most, nearly, perfectly, purely, really, scarcely, simply, so, somewhat, strongly, thoroughly, too, totally, and utterly. Conjunctive, hang on, conjunctive adverbs. Conjunctive adverbs are a special kind of adverb that acts very similarly to a coordinating conjunction by joining two independent clauses together. They don't perform the typical function of describing a verb, adjective, or adverb. And because of that, they're not really the type of adverbs we're going to be talking about for the purposes of this assignment. So I won't go into them more here, but I wanted you to know they exist. If you are interested in learning about them more because you're planning to go on to college or you're just kind of curious, you can go over to thoughtco.com and they have definition and examples of conjunctive adverbs. It's a little bit complex and I think beyond where we need to be right now. Focusing adverbs. Focusing adverbs are used to draw attention to a particular part of a clause. Frequently, they point to verb phrases, but they can also draw attention to noun phrases, prepositional phrases, adjective phrases, and adverbial phrases. They are another special type of adverb. They're drawing attention to a specific part of a sentence. It can also even draw attention to nouns and prepositional phrases, which is why I think they're a little bit confusing and we're not really going to need to use them for our assignment, but I wanted to know to and exist. So for example, mom at least won't forget my birthday. So in this case, at least is trying to draw attention to the mom, but it's still considered a type of adverb. Okay, so here is key question number 8. And it's written like this. And I got to be honest, I don't know about you, but at first when I looked at this, I couldn't quite figure out what they were trying to ask. So it's worth 10 marks. For each of the following words, write 2 adverbs. And your given words will be either a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. And then they've got the word written twice. Written, written, spoke, spoke, warm, warm, climb, climb, tired, tired. But afterwards they have second word or first word. And finally, I kind of clued in that what they were trying to say was written should be the second word in that phrase. So like put an adverb and then written, put an adverb and then written. Spoke should be the first word. So spoke and then another adverb, spoke and then another adverb. So climbed is another one where it would be first and then an adverb after. And written, tired, and warm, you would all have an adverb in front and then that word. I don't really know why, and I think it's a little bit confusing, but that is what they are asking us to do. So here is an example. For each of the following words, write 2 adverbs. So for example, swam quickly, or I could write swam lazily. The given words could be a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. In some cases, they want you to write the given word first. So if walked is the first word, then it comes first, and then you would write your adverb. So like walked carefully, walked fearfully. In other cases, they want you to put the adverb in front of the given word. So if they say angry second word, that means it's going to come second and another word is going to come first. So like often angry, rarely angry. Let's try a few more just to kind of get the idea across. I think it's a little bit, I thought it was confusing anyways. Hang on, give myself some room on this page here. Here we go. So instead of walked, let's try another movement word. Let's try skipped. Okay, so I want skipped to be the first word, and then I'm going to add some adjectives afterwards. Adverbs. So skipped. How could this person skip? They skipped joyfully, little kids might skip very joyfully. I could also talk about when, where, I could do time, skipped briefly, right? Maybe they don't have a whole lot of time. She's running to the store and she kind of briefly skipped. Okay, let's try another one like that. Remember that adverbs can be how, where, when, to what extent. So let's say jumped. Okay, so jumped has to come first. Jumped, I could say they jumped high, right? I could also say jumped clumsily, right? That talks about how. All right, let's go over to the other one here. Yep. Okay. Hang on. If I just extend this a little bit, we got some more room here. Now, the adverb, sorry, yeah. In this case, they want the given word to be the second word, and they want you to put an adverb in front of it. So I'm going to use, let me think here. Use the word happy. It's another emotion word. Okay. I could say, how could I describe that person being happy? Um, uh, Unexpectedly, right? Maybe you thought they were going to be upset about something, but actually they're happy. Unexpectedly happy. Um, so happy. Obviously, I could say rarely, briefly, was always happy, right? All of those would work. Okay. Then after you've done that, they want you to go back through and pick one of, like, because they come in sets of two, right? So I've got two for written, two for tired. They want you to pick one for written, one tired, one spoke, one climbed, one warm, one of the phrases that you created, and put them into a sentence. So here's an example. I could say, the hunter walked carefully over the dry leaves so he would not startle the moose. My friend, who was a lawyer, was often angry over the injustices he saw in court. Okay, so let's try one from one of our other words that we just made. We've got skipped briefly. Let me think. The little girl skipped briefly on her way to school. Okay, underline it so I can easily find it. Go. Let's try another one. Let's see. We've got jumped. I'm going to use jumped high. The college athlete jumped high to catch the football. So how did he jump? He jumped high. Okay, and let's look at another ones. Often, did I use angry? Yep, we used angry. Unexpectedly happy. Let me think. I was unexpectedly happy when the car broke down. So my boyfriend came over instead. Okay. And then I would underline unexpectedly happy. Okay. So that is our two assignments for today. Looking at key question 8, remembering that you've got to write an adverb phrase, then write your sentences, which is pretty much the same thing as they have you doing for adjectives. Where is that? Hang on. Oh, oh my goodness, where did it disappear to? Okay, there it is. again, same thing. Write the adjectives, use it in a sentence. These are worth 10 marks each. I know at the very beginning it talked about how the entire activity is worth 30 marks, but that's because there's one more key question we're going to do, and we will tackle that tomorrow. Okay. If you have any questions or concerns about this, by all means, please reach out to me and talk to me. I will be here in the office until about 1:30 today, and then I'm back in the office from 4 to 6. I know I've had a few people reaching out to me and talking to me about assignments so far, which is awesome. There's only about 21 students in this class, so there's plenty of time for me to discuss things with people. And if you're taking this, this is probably one of your final courses. If you are due to graduate and this course is difficult or you're having a hard time with it, please, please, please reach out to me. Let me know. I'd be happy to help you work on this. And anyone who's taking this course, obviously, please reach out to me. I just know sometimes that people get nervous or shy about doing so. Sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm sure they're busy. They don't want to ask me. But nope, this is my job. This is what I do. And I'm always happy to talk to students. I will be here again tomorrow, and I look forward to talking to you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a good day.